Howdy, and welcome to Risky Standard, a collection of mysterious writings on an ancient papyrus scroll found floating on the sea inside an amber glass bottle, presented to you today in the form of an actual play podcast featuring a rowdy group of best friends playing tabletop role-playing games together. I'm Mitch Brewster, your host and Firefly for today's continuation of our ongoing campaign of The Wildsea, written by Felix Isaacs and published by MythWorks. As always, you can find links in our show notes to check out The Wildsea and pick up a copy or two. You can find me over on Blue Sky at Magnesium Beat, and you can find the show over on Blue Sky at Risky Standard, over on Instagram, also at Risky Standard, or over on the show's Discord, where we are hanging out, talking about the show, talking about some of the new tabletop role-playing games we've been playing, checking out, and just having a good old laugh. You can also find us over on the show's Patreon now. That's patreon.com/risky standard, where you can join to gain access to monthly bonus episodes. With me today, I've got Peter Loftus.
That's right. I'm Pete. I've been trapped in this bottle with this message for I don't even know how long. So if you find it, please let me out.
We've also got Malcolm Hall.
What's up? Malcolm Hall. Once again, a technological iconoclast, international jewel thief playboy. Coming in strong and lightning fast today on the internet.
We also have Timothy Mans.
Feels good to be here again with you listeners and my comrades who play with me. Let me tell you, I'd say you should listen with a string in hand. You can practice all your sailing knots like I do. It gets you in a character, get you in the headspace of being a wild sailor, and it's going to make the season really come together for you. So join me. Get a string.
A lot of your fingers are looking pretty purple. I think you should loosen some of those knots up.
I am tied to my chair, listeners. Help.
One of the first podcasts recorded completely immobilized.
Without further ado, like I said, today we are here to continue our ongoing campaign of the Wildsea. Last we left off, we were dealing with the aftermath of the ominous comet known as the Red Messenger, this gleaming red falling star which had had flown over the sky of Caldermere in the midst of a massive rootquake which shook the city to its core. And then we saw you guys meet with your captain, who told you he'd found a discovery relating to these rootquakes, and charged you with preparing the ship to set sail once more on the Wildsea to find the source of it. And you guys had acquired a few new upgrades for the ship, had spent a little time bartering and trading to make sure that you yourselves were ready for the journey. So any questions about where we're at or about what's going on before we dive back into the wacky world of the Wildsea?
I'm not diving in. I'm staying on the boat. I'm staying above the water. That sounds dangerous. But no, I don't really have any questions. I think we covered a lot of this. I mean, Cal's got a newly etched scale, got some Crezerin to burn. Is it Crezerin?
Crezerin
to burn. I'm always trying to I don't know why I always think it's Cesarin. I don't know what that would be. Cesarin. That's snake oil.
Cal's on the deck, no shirt, showing off the ink, rubbing
6
lotions
arms
on
flexing.
it. Keep it from scaling
too much. That's a great little moment there to segue, Tim. Because I think, we open up here, right? Wide shot of the Vale Port, the break in the caldera that forms the city of Caldermere, where the docks of the city are, where the shipping and transit hub of the city is, where there is a wild flurry of activity. It is early morning. The light is shining over the rich green of the trees out there. And yeah, there are wild sailors. From this higher view, it looks like ants, right, or bugs crawling over the surface of this caldera as wild sailors of all sorts are rushing in and out of the Vale Port. There is a burst, a frenzy of activity in the wake of this Red Messenger and the rootquakes, because, as we know, these rootquakes, although dangerous, are also the greatest source of salvage, of relics, of new material from the old world being pushed to the surface by their frenetic movement. I think as our camera kind of flies, we even see, right, in the distance, glittering on the surface of these green waves, It is remnants of things that have been pushed up, new relics, new salvage to be found, and there are, ships leaving in force from the Vale port, a frenzy as they are, checking out through this big crescent roundhouse and then being pushed out onto the waves, being lowered on great chains from the walls where they've been docked. Some of these are dredgers and salvagers. They are other wild sailors keen to explore and see what's going on. I think we probably recognize even also a few of the people we saw at the Scholars' Cup last night. These members of the Lantern Society, explorers, scientists, arconauts who are perhaps not pursuing the findings that Claremont presented there. And I think there are also people who are getting the hell out of Dodge. Right, we've spoken already about these red messengers, these bright red falling stars as ominous portents. There's histories of them appearing and then bad things happening after. And there's also histories of them appearing and then interesting things happening afterward. But I think you see some people who are rightfully are not interested in not being near Caldermere when we figure out what this particular red messenger holds for us.
May you live in interesting times, as the saying goes.
And so I think, our camera cuts in, right? We zoom in to the deck of the Verdigale. I think we can see, as we come in, this... The Verdigale, as we've described, right, is the hull is made from this the skull of a deep tangle cetacean, this kind of Wildsea evolutionary cousin of a whale with great tusks pushed forward. The gaps in the bone filled in with dark wood and brass. And I think we see our captain, Claremont Montclair. He's on the deck. He's back to his kind of safari expedition outfit, right? The bandolier of little vials and pockets, and there's little notebooks hanging off of him. His knife, his spore scarf, his little grapple on the belt. And I think he's testing the new crane arm, the cargo crane arm that you guys acquired during your times getting the ship ready for this journey. He's looking pleased as he's playing with like the small little control panel, moving this big mechanical arm. And I think, we see Ixtobor is there as well. Our Ectus quartermaster, who is, he's tying off ropes and rigging, making sure everything is secure on the boat. And maybe we can kind of get the little snapshot here, right, of everyone as they are going busy to and fro on the Verdigale, getting ready for the day's journey. Our first, this is not our first journey, but it is our first one really leaving properly from a port, like a real expedition with a true goal in mind besides just getting back to civilization.
I mean, I think I'm like showing Hex the scale. I like that scene when we walked in. So it's like, no, it doesn't hurt. It's kind of like carving. Can't really see it. It's like, it looks good, right?
It looks incredible. You don't feel that? Kind of wrapping, like, does it? You can just carve into this, and
I'm imagining
you don't
like,
feel that.
Your like moth antenna doing like the thing where they tap all over it. It's like you don't feel any of that.
yeah, exactly. After giving Cal his roses for the new tattoo, looks great. I think Hex is doing what he kind of does anytime the ship is about to take off. He's going to head up to the kind of the lightning rod battery charger. He's going to go we're going to see him going down into the ship to check the ceramic batteries themselves, and now with all the pieces for the early detection of rootquake systems that he has built, just tinkering with that and making sure that he feels it's ready to do what it needs to do once they actually hit the sea. So I have one other question. Is like with everyone headed out, onto the sea to see what treasures they can find outside of the Valeport, like just on the edges of Caldermere, are like there ships there? Are there things that are, brought up to the surface just right outside the Valeport? Is that
They're probably hauling up some big
of
stuff.
Ships there, or is it like mostly you travel outward? I just didn't know if we were going to be like.
I think that probably like right next to Caldermere, because it is a caldera, right? It's this kind of volcanic mountain peak. And so I have to imagine, like, as you get below the tree line, there's still kind of like a gradient of soil, right? And so I think probably, the bottom, as it were, is too high right near Caldermere for anything down there to be that hasn't already been picked over, right?
Sure. Okay.
I imagine there have been still dangerous, still, kind of stressful expeditions down kind of as far down safely as you can go down the kind of walls of the caldera as it goes below the surface. And so I think, there's a kind of almost like a ring of clear, not water, but like clear foliage, right? Clear green around the city, where there's not really stuff getting brought up, or not much, And then
probably like the shallows, they're like a lighter green color.
Exactly, yeah. It is the shallows, right? And so I think that, stuff getting pushed up from the rootquakes doesn't really start to show up until you've gone a certain distance out, right? Until you're in deep waters. But there is still, I think, probably kind of like a...
Is the question like if the cranes in the Veilport are hauling out like stuff from the depths?
I mean, I guess that could be a part of it too. I was mostly just wondering, like, what it was like to leave the Veilport, sailing out. Are you sailing into a bustling thoroughfare of people pulling things up here? I guess not even in like is it treacherous, but just like getting through that onto the Wildsea. Is this like something that you just didn't know what that looked like for people leaving the Veilport? But I think Mitch answered that pretty clearly, and it just gives me a better picture, that's all.
Yeah. And so what about Rhys? Where's Rhys at amidst the getting ready?
Rhys is, I think, where was the last time we saw him? We were going back, I think maybe doing the final touches on the transmitter on the Outrider. Not Outrigger,
yes,
Outrider.
You guys got a
which still does not have a name. Maybe like test 1 2 check. Maybe getting some feedback and going, oh god, startled by that. Going back to his quarters, counting, like getting all of his packages in a row, making sure that everything is tip top, ready to go. Make sure he's ready to fulfill his duties.
Yes, because as we said, one of the upgrades to the ship that you guys got last time was a fixed band radio capable of sending and receiving static laden signals based on recently rediscovered pre-verdant technology. It's probably we also see the game tells us also this is it relies on fragile antennae fixed to the uppermost portion of the ship, and so maybe when Hex is up there adjusting the lightning rod, right, it's also like making sure that antenna, doing a little tweaking.
Yeah, does it get into any like local stations or anything? Like, you're listening to the morning zoo.
Probably get a bunch of stuff. Yeah,
call me.
Honk. Yes.
The drive time this morning.
Hearing weird like Zelicray radio stuff. It's like clicks and skittering.
Yeah. And I think probably
chains.
You're getting, you're kind of like probably also we saw, there was kind of like a collection of these in the junkyards of Caldermere. You're probably like trying to find a channel that's also not picking up like other ships in the Veilport who have recently installed the same kind of system, right? So you are getting like calls back and forth from different ships. And so I think, we get here probably like Montclair at some point ringing the deck bell to gather everyone on the deck once more. And, as the crew kind of comes together, I think Ixtalbor is maybe producing I think we talked about having real coffee here in Caldermere. Perhaps he's acquired a little bit of that, right? There is a kettle or a carafe here with like real coffee and like some tin mugs set out.
I think Rhys also goes over to the water barrel and pours some water and like nods approvingly at its clarity.
Yes, you have water that is fresh, that is not Crezerin tainted, relatively Crezerin untainted, which is a thing we'll talk about probably the more you guys spend time on the Wildsea. It's hard to get food out here that is not in some way impacted by Crezerin, or as some people call it, Cesarin, the kind of mutative substance which spurs on the wild growth that has created the Wildsea itself.
Yeah, you can say that either way. Most people say Crezerin, but it's actually right both ways.
It's a regional dialect.
Yeah, that's how we say it in Michigan.
And I think called on the deck, Claremont. Excellent work, gentlemen. The ship looks better than ever. This crane, a perfect addition for who knows what we might find out there on the Wildsea, what grand salvage or relics we can pull up and use to learn more about the shape of this world. And he straightens out a little. I know that our time here has been briefer and slightly more tumultuous than anticipated. And I guess he says it, there haven't been any big rootquakes, really, since that big one that came with the Red Messenger. But I think we can see out on the Wildsea, there are like tremors and shakes, right? These very gentle rootquakes are happening again. However, this is a grand opportunity to pursue the ambitions of the Lantern Society and tarry forth in service to its grand ideals. We're going to discover something new about our world. And in the process, we're going to protect these people. And he, big open arms, gestures to the city around you. We will protect these people. I'm going to knock over my water bottle. We'll protect these people and the monument to cooperation and civility that they have built. And I think, he looks around. Daylight's burning. I'd like to leave soon. Any last preparations you need to make, do them now, and then let us speak to the dockmaster, get ourselves lowered, and set sail on the Wildsea. TM. Thank you, Felix. And so we're gonna, we're playing the game now. We are. I mean, we've been playing the game, obviously, but we are in it again. We are moving back into the journey segment of the Wildsea, one of the game's kind of primary mechanics. And so as we did this last time, and this is going to be our first time doing it leaving from a port. And so the first phase of going on a journey is departure. The departure phase allows both players and the Firefly to prepare for the journey ahead. When getting ready to depart on a journey, you should set your destination, make any preparations you might need, and have each member of the crew choose their station. And while we're doing this, I'm also going to create a set of journey tracks. And so let's just kind of go through this real quick, right? Destination. As the game tells us, nobody heads out onto the Wildsea without a very good reason. Your first point of order should be to set a destination that will mark the end of your journey. Usually a port or settlement of some kind, but occasionally a creature you're hunting or a ship you're aiming to meet. And so in this instance, we kind of already have a destination, or a loose destination, right? Which is Claremont and his collaborator, Errol Point, have been using Errol's arboreal seismography and the findings they've had to get a kind of generalized sense of, it seems like there is a place that the kind of unusual rootquakes right now are originating from. There seems to be a kind of a center that it's emanating from. And so I don't think that you have necessarily a fixed destination in the sense of a settlement or an island or anything like that, but you have a general sense of distance and direction, which is somewhere to the northeast. And I think Claremont probably, I say here as we're talking about, some of this is probably in character speaking a little bit, the readings on the seismographs indicate that whatever the center is, it's not right next to the city. We've got at least a few days sail. We should be ready for that. And so we have this destination, and I'm going to set a progress track now, which will be marked every time the ship makes progress towards your goal. And once the last box on the progress track is marked, you'll have reached your destination. This is a hidden track. I'm going to make this. I am not going to tell you how many segments on the track there are. And so there's a little bit of a game here trying to figure out how much further do we have to go? Can we afford to rest? Can we afford to rush? Do we need to rush, etc.? And before we leave, the game also asks us to consider preparations. There are a few other things you might want to consider before leaving port. And it tells us some groups might want to treat this as a montage, others as a scene, others as a simple checklist. But it lists some things that you could do here, right? You could hire extra gangs or officers for your undercrew, take on passengers, pick up cargo, pick up extra information from the surrounding waves, from junctions, kartoikas, smokehouses, and shadow springs, or planning a route if you have the charts and the knowledge to get you there. And so this is a moment here. We did a lot of prep last time, so I imagine there's probably not a lot we need to do now, but this is kind of the last moment before we start rolling some dice and getting on the water, quote unquote water. is there anything anyone wants to do? Or any last last little things that are at the back of your head? Probably quick and simple things, right? I think we don't want to get stuck up here, but is there anything
I've got
we didn't
one
do
at the
already?
back of my head. Do you think they spell boats BOUGHT, like bow of a tree out here, or would that just be BOAT?
Canonically, I mean, I don't know that they're writing English, but yeah, let's say that it is
right, it's
BOUGHT. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. No, I don't have anything else.
All right.
Ready to set sail now. Thank you.
How do you spell this, Captain? Aye, aye.
I'm
gonna send a letter home real quick. Maybe I'm sending in a postcard. Dearest mother and father, I'm here in the glorious port city of Caldemere. There's a smile on every lip and a tune in the air. Yeah, I'm sending a postcard back to High Sonder. Greetings from Caldemere with a sort of like, it's a nice like old what do they call that print? Whatever.
Like
Like an engraving, a lithograph kind of thing.
Lithograph. Yeah, lithograph. It's a sort of like pressed, like wood cut. That's what I'm thinking of. Like a wood cut.
Oh, sure. They
Yes,
probably
sort of
have like maybe they sell them
thing.
here,
Yeah. Definitely
for
wood
sure.
cut. It makes sense.
like a pressed paper mache or something.
And I'm just dropping it off to whomever is at the word bearer's post.
Yes. We described this like kind of like a Stackstone messenger house, amalgamated messengery, and so probably I imagine somewhere in this place, right, there are like kind of sorting piles of like the nearest settlements that are known, right, and things that are directed in those places. There is High Sonder is a near enough one of the nearest largest settlements that I bet there is a considerable amount of mail that is moving that direction. I like that Rhys kind of takes on a different accent when he's writing.
Well, yeah, so I am trying really hard, and I want the listener to know this, to not do an English accent, because we agreed that there will not be any accents on here. But I know in my heart that Rhys does have an English accent, and I'm just trying to do my best mid-Atlantic, sort of right down the lane, definitely not British, sort of try.
fair, isn't it?
So please
That's
bear with me,
Hungarian.
but just know. Wink.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not doing a moth accent either, so.
I do like the idea of High Sonder as having this like kind of mid-Atlantic, this
Affect.
Boston Brahmin kind
Yes.
of a different way of speaking. So I think there's no role for that. That is just a thing Rhys is very easily able to do. I imagine the word bearers who are lingering around this like message house, give you that kind of like a respectful nod, recognizing someone else in the trade as you're in and out. Then we are moving, right? We are on the ship, and I think, right now the ship is hung up against the side wall of the Vale port by these two great chains that are like linked into the side. And it is lowered, with the heavy sign of grounding chains into the Wildsea, and the hooks are removed, and there are, stevedores shouting and guiding you, and it is kind of chaotic as you are brought out of the Vale port, right? There is this kind of storm of ships. Everyone is leaving all at once. It is maybe the first time in a long time or ever that like on a boat on the Wildsea any of you have ever felt crowded, because there are so many ships, and there are the shouts, like I said, of stevedores, of dockhands as they guide you out, and there are these kind of like lanes marked on the sea itself with like hanging flags and ropes to kind of like guide you out. And as you kind of leave the mouth of the Vale port, of this crack in the caldera, there are dozens of other boats leaving at the same time. And I think we get this kind of like nice snapshot of so many different kinds of ships, right? I think we are seeing, other ships like yours that have like big saw prows, these chainsaw bites pulling them forward, but some are made, they are big hulking metal scraps wielded together. Others are like these kind of like smaller, slimmer wooden boats that are things made out of, bone like yours, but different creatures. And, there are other ships moving with stranger bites, ships with legs like centipedes that have them crawling across the top of the waves. There are, I imagine this, a Gao spore ship. I think we see, right, this is like a, standing on the top, at the front of the bow is, or at the prow. The prow is the front of the boat, right? Yeah, at the front of the prow. We see the Gao captain that we saw in the Scholars Cup last night on a ship that is seemingly grown from some kind of fungal mass that seems to be moving by emitting like a kind of a low spore, like cloud underneath it that pushes it forward. And like I said, this is just kind of a big mess of ships moving all at once. And I think as you're, coming out, you don't hear it at first, but it's because it moves almost silently on the waves, but all at once, the sun, a shade is cast over the entire boat, as you all look up to the side and see there is a massive wooden ship, with this like, I imagine it's like dark wood, almost ebony, this enormous, what I'm thinking of is like a very, in my mind, like a classic, Age of Sail, like sail ship.
A Flying Dutchman.
A Flying Dutchman, a galleon, right? This like kind of like, and it has sails, right? Which is an unusual sight for many ships on the Wildsea. It has sails on it, but there's no saw prow on this ship, this dark wooden ship. I think you can see, as it moves alongside you, there is silver writing on the side of it. This kind of curling script, the ship's name written. This is the Ossian Retort, and it has these big heavy canvas sails, but they're, I think, ragged. There are tears in them. That is not what is carrying the ship forward. Instead, it is moving on what almost looks like a crawling blanket of insects and creatures, but they are phantasmal. They are this kind of softish blue or purple. There's almost like a mist around them. It is a ship sailing on the accumulated ghosts of bugs and small creatures that have died on the Wildsea. The spectral tide is carrying the ship forward and past you, and I think you see, at the wheel, this woman, again, in this like Victorian mourning dress, this dark hair, Agnes Peril from the Spiritist Assembly, and I think you see this Death's Head moth, the moth from this from this crew that you saw before, who looks down and smiles and does a small wave as their ship overtakes yours and moves past you out onto the waves. It seems they have decided after all to take to the sea, perhaps in pursuit of Claremont's discovery. And then they are gone. They are past you, moving faster than your ship does, because
Poppiness, but it's fine.
Yeah, the Verdigale is strong, it's sturdy, it's well equipped for research, but it is not fast, as we have discussed. It is a slower ship.
Is Claremont right there?
He is.
I think as we're standing.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, it's like as we're standing on the side of this boat, right? I guess I think Cal, kind of looking at this huge hull as it passes, it's like, Captain, that woman from the Illumineers, she said it's a dead world. We're all corpses here. What is she talking about? You know her?
He shakes his head.
She knew you.
Not an Illumineer, though she does seem to read our journals. That's Agnes Peril. She's the captain of the Ossian Retort, a member of the Spiritist Assembly, not a rogue sect of the Lanterns, but another group of interested arcanauts and explorers with a different take. And he shakes his head. They've misapprehended. Our world is a careful balance of forces and materials, yes? The arconautic, the material, the spiritual, and he gestures to their ship sailing away on this bed of ghost bugs. But the Spiritists have assumed, incorrectly I believe, that it is the spiritual which overweighs all else. The Wildsea is a kind of a ghost world, a corpse that we all live on. How else, they ask, do you explain so many who return from the waves, phantasmal but still here? It is true. Ours is a world of spirits, of whispers, of strange things. But I reject their assumption that we are all caught in some half-life, some limbo. I
Couldn't
suppose
agree
there's
more,
a
Captain.
freedom in believing that we're all dead, that it doesn't matter.
It's a grim prognosis, Captain. I agree.
Thank you,
Truly,
Rhys.
we sail upon a
Well, I
world
guess
that's
it's where
teeming
there's
with
this, like,
life.
wake of
I
ghost
don't.
bugs.
I disagree with the very concept. Even the spirit itself of death is one of life. No.
A provoking idea.
I mean, maybe I think Cal's got like a handout or something. It's like this like spectral tide washes over us or something, and you're watching some little ghost thing dissipate in the passing by. Certainly more than I would have thought.
And yeah, so I think the Ossian retort continues on, yeah, and you guys slowly sail out of the immediate perimeter of Caldermere, and I think we'll pick up the journey mechanic in 1 second, but I think there's like an hour of just kind of, or half hour maybe, of just getting out right from the kind of immediate gravity of the city itself.
Getting our tree legs
then,
back, yeah.
I don't know that you realize how quickly that's happened until suddenly, there's that moment of like, oh, because you've been hearing the sound of other ships, right? You've been seeing all these other ships. And then, yeah, half an hour, perhaps an hour of sail out of the city. I think you can look around you over the vast, great emptiness of the waves and realize you can't see another ship again. Only an hour away from civilization, and again, you are adrift on this immense expanse. The Wildsea is enormous, and these little islands, these little settlements are just dots of light in its great darkness. To the north, far, far, far away, always tainting the horizon, there is the black cloud of smoke that marks the conflagration, the pyre that burns forever as a grim reminder of the earliest days of the post-verdancy. And there are other, landmarks dotting away ahead of you. There are, the occasional tall shank, the swell and fall of the waves, but you are alone again on the Wildsea, just your crew and your ship for a moment. And there's, probably distantly the sound of other saw prows, of other action, but I think it's kind of stunning how quickly you can escape the crowded hustle and bustle of civilization to be alone, at peace, perhaps, on the Wildsea. And I think at this point, we can move to the kind of next, the big part of a journey, right? The actual journey itself. So we did this last time, but I'll go over it really quickly again here. Whenever we take a journey, there are several possible stations that a crew member can man, and 2 of these are essential. They have to happen every time for a journey to happen. One of them is that someone has to be at the helm, and that person is going to control the ship's speed and direction. They will be the one kind of in charge of deciding how quickly we progress on our journey. Another person has to be on watch. The person who is on watch will roll to see what the ship is about to encounter as the journey progresses. And then beyond that, optionally, someone can tend the engine. They can cartographize, which is to look out for landmarks in distinctive places to sketch out a new chart. Or they can watch the weather. And that's, when watching the weather, you gain the idea of what future weather conditions will be like based on your current meteorological and environmental assessments. And it's worth noting here, we talked about it last session, but it's a good reminder for me. To the far west, past Caldermere, there are storm clouds brewing, a large storm on the horizon.
Oh,
Forgot about that.
Oh, I didn't.
It's it's both in character and out of character in a pleasant way. And so I have already made the progress track for your journey today. Like I said before, I will not tell you how long it is. That is a little bit of mystery. However, I will tell you that you do have a pathfinding track that has 1 of 3 segments filled out. This was something that Rhys started. Pathfinding chart to chart the seas surrounding Caldermere. Anyone's welcome to work on that if they'd like. And the other big track here, which we've already seen evidence of a few times, is the growing rootquakes. And that is a 5-segment track with a break in it after 3 segments. And breaks in tracks indicate some kind of big event or change in the track's progress. And so we have already filled out 3 segments of the growing rootquakes. We hit that break, and then we saw the red messenger fall. There are 2 segments left in that growing rootquakes. and it is tracking, the growing intensity. As I wrote for myself here, the rootquakes in the shaking boughs are growing more intense every day, according to some unseen pattern or force. And so, as this track progresses, those rootquakes are going to grow more intense until I fill all 5 tracks, and then something will happen. And so you might think of this as a thing that you would like to avoid happening, I'd think. Getting to the source of this before this track is completed is, in some ways, the crew's mission right now. But if you don't, that's okay too. We'll figure it out. Play to find out what happens, they say. So, let's start from the top. Who wants to be at the helm this time?
Yeah, I think that Hex is preoccupied otherwise. He can,
Understandably so.
But yeah, if you
We
take
better put you on the weather station there, big dog.
Oh, I think that's
And,
heavily
yeah,
implied
definitely.
by the things he's
I'll take watch.
keeping himself
I'd like
busy
to test
with,
out this.
by
Yeah,
not taking the wheel.
I'll take watch because I'd like to test out
test
this
out the radio.
short band radio. Yeah.
That makes sense to me. And just a reminder for the listeners who in case we're being a little mysterious about why Hex is worried about these storms, Hexam, of course, as the Tempest, in a previous pupation as his Mothran self, set himself up to steal the power from a living storm during his most recent pupation, and has since been hunted by that same living storm, which wants its power back. Is that a fair description of the situation you find yourself in?
I think that is exactly how I would describe that. Yeah.
And also to clarify here, you could always roll some dice about this later, but I don't think that it's clear at all to anyone. Well, one, it's not clear to Hex. Is this storm the living storm? Is this just a regular storm? That would be like a roll to find out thing. But
Right.
also, on top of that, you have not told anyone else
No.
that you are being hunted by a living storm. That is still a fun little detail that you forgot to include in your resume.
Yeah, that's the best part about, the position he holds on the ship, that like it's never wrong to say we need to avoid being in a storm. So it's he can kind of couch any concern, and that is just a concern anyone might have. Let's not let that catch up to us. We don't want to do that.
Especially not me, but also all of us.
But also most of us, right? We hate this, huh?
Okay, so weather station for you.
Weather station for me. I think that
All right.
also allows for, again, keeping an eye on battery and the rootquake detection system. All of that can kind of come in with the watching the weather, I think, element of keeping the ship on course. And
Yeah, I like that. I like that. All right. So we have these 3 rolls, and we're gonna just go down them in the order here, because you guys each have some decisions to make or some dice to roll. So we'll talk through what those decisions are, and then we'll kind of blend that all together in one nice kind of fictional presentation. So let's start off with you, Calathiel. You're at the
Yes.
helm.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine the helm looks a little bit different than the last time you were here, because there is now, a short band radio device installed into the console here, right? And there is like a...
Yeah, we had like the kind of echo box before, spirit box kind of thing on the wall where we could kind of communicate, and now I guess I'm imagining there's that, which I kind of thought of as like, in the playground there'd be like those pipes.
yes, yeah.
Like that, I imagine, just picks up all sound basically anywhere from where its pipes lead from. So it's not really like an on or off necessarily. There's a button, maybe you can like click it, on and off, but it's pretty analog. But this now I imagine kind of dangles like a CB radio, controller or something. And it may
Hell yeah.
like maybe it is actually. It's probably had the button replaced with like wood or something, and the cord's like frayed, but it's maybe wrapped in like a those old electrical cords will have like a braiding like fabric around it essentially. And so it's like it probably has a plastic shell that is at one point like an actual CB radio. But it's sort of been like antiqued and fitted back together. And I guess maybe I like the scene where it's like Cal's kind of like noticing it's there now, and I guess kind of like uneasily, I guess grabs it off the hook and is like, this is the Verdigale. Pulling away. Do I say anything else?
Who are you talking to?
No,
I'm on the short band, I guess. Like, you're supposed to, I'm imagining.
Probably Rhys, right? I imagine maybe we cut to Rhys on the outrider, right?
And
Oh,
we've been
yeah.
out at sea.
Yeah, and I go like, yeah, I know.
Over.
Okay, bye.
I like that Cal somehow figured out over, right? Has figured out radio.
Yeah.
It's probably like says it on the pointing at the button. Over.
But it's like written in Hyven, right? It's like which you have a smattering of. This is the
Clover. I don't know. That's like a plant one.
Clover.
Clover and oat.
Clover note's pretty funny. So at the helm, Calathiel, you have direct control over the ship. And when we go on a journey, you choose one of the following 3 options. You can cut a path, which means you travel at decent speed while keeping the ship and crew as safe as possible. This gives whoever is on watch a better chance of spotting oddities early. And mechanically, that means that you'll mark a single box on your hidden progress track. Alternatively, you can forge ahead. Your passage across the waves is rough but swift, the roar of engines and cracking of branches heralding your arrival. Watch is almost a formality. You have little chance of coming within visual range of anything without being spotted yourself. Mechanically, that means you can mark 2 boxes on your progress track. And when a watch roll is made, you'll usually blunder straight into whatever encounter is rolled, or damage your ship trying to avoid it. And then finally, lastly, you could drop anchor. I suspect probably the first thing we want to do on our journey is not stop, but I leave the choice to you, Calathiel.
Well, I mean, there's such a flurry of activity that we know there's like a gold rush essentially out there. So I'm going to forge ahead and kind of go full tilt on the Chadburn.
Great. And so, yeah, you know, we hear the like electric whine as the engine spins up, the saw starts to turn. And Rhys, you're on watch. I we just said it, but just to confirm, like on the outrider, right? Kind of sailing ahead as we travel. And so we've done this before, but we'll go through it again. Whoever is on watch, when it's your time, you roll a single D6. And the result of that D6 will tell us whether we encounter something from peace, something from order, or something from nature. You know, which is sort of things that deal with the ship, things that deal with culture, or things that deal with, you know, the Wildsea itself, nature, natural features. And then I will simultaneously roll a hidden D6. And that will let us know whether you encounter a danger-free opportunity, a hazardous encounter with a useful payoff, or immediate danger to the crew with little hope of immediate payoff. So why don't we both go ahead and roll our 1d6 here, and then you can tell me your result, and I'll let you figure out what my result was.
Ready when you are.
All right. Go ahead.
6.
A 6. Oh, okay. And so...
Nice. Peace, baby. We love it.
You didn't see my dice roll, right? I want to make sure my hidden button works.
Nope.
Okay. Take a brief moment here again to shout out the Wildsea digital character sheet that we're using.
It's so
from,
great. It's incredible.
wildsea.charsmith.com, which is got all kinds of really excellent features, custom built for the Wildsea, including a button that lets me roll hidden dice as the GM for just this encounter, this occasion. All right. So a 6, yes. A 6 means peace. The game here says an entire watch passing without a sighting of anything out of the ordinary. And that sort of thing, you know, it could be a watch so uneventful you have time to take a montage, you know, do a task. It could be a meeting called by the undercrew, a chance for a tall tale, or a tree shanty to lift spirits and learn about the world. And my dice, we'll see what it was. But before
it's a tree shanty, make one up right now. Let's hear it, boys. And
yes,
1, 2, 3.
Oh,
a tall
it's a
shade
tree
grows, and
we...
it is veiled tall. Everyone, nope. I'm done. I'm working on that one. Now we'll come back in. We'll cut a full song in with instrumentation. Thank you, Liam. What does fishing look like for on the Wildsea? Like, I mean, obviously we're not catching mackerel, but like,
I bet if you like
some
trawled...
sort of like mackerel-like bug. Yeah.
There's also, you know, the game, what does it have? There's a good one. Conflagant swarms, bright red and orange fish adapted to swim through the air with gas bladders, right?
Oh. There we
That's
go.
kind of a fun one, right? So they're occasionally actual fish, but yeah, also like bugs, smaller
Okay.
like things like that. Lizards, I bet, are probably another thing you might fish for on the Wildsea. I imagine it's like dropping a baited hook down as it drags through, and then
Right.
pulling it up when it grabs something that is probably a little spicier sometimes than regular fishing is.
Yeah, I think that if there's relative peace on the sea and we are just passing time, making up songs, I think Hex is doing a little fishing, more in the way of trying to catch little specimens to make a small menagerie that goes deck on deck with him, kind of near his station of rootquake detection, little lizard enclosure, and just to have creatures on board to study and to keep us entertained, and building that up as we travel across the sea.
Yes. But of course, right now, as we discussed, you are watching the weather,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that is going to have you're also going to get to roll a dice here. So just as important as watching the waves, watching the skies clues you into weather changes before they happen, allowing you to plan for or avoid dangerous weather. When you're watching the weather, you're going to roll 1d6 just as if you were on a normal watch. But we have a different table that we're going to look at. And so with the weather watching, if you roll a 6, it's clear skies. Whatever the weather was doing before, it clears. For the next part of your journey, you have, a period of comfortable sunshine that brings easy to hunt creatures to the surface, or perhaps a light rain followed by a blossoming of flowers and ripening of fruits. On a 5 or a 4, the weather will continue as it is, for good or ill. Storms rage, periods of uncomfortable warmth drag on, or if you're lucky, perfect sailing conditions persist. And then on a 3, 2, or a 1 here, the weather's about to turn against you. For the next part of your journey, it might get rough. So why don't you go ahead, Hex, and roll us that 1d6, and we'll use all of these to kind of put together a portrait of what happens with the crew as you forge ahead.
Rolling 1d6. Oh, there we go. Yep. Ooh, 1.
Now that's interesting to me. So again, I'll repeat. A 1 means the weather is about to turn against you. For the next part of the journey, you might have driving rain or hail that lowers visibility and makes it harder to perform actions out on the deck. Blazing sunshine that threatens heat stroke, evaporates liquids, and brings out hordes of stinging insects. Or, of course, a living storm or other bizarre weather phenomena bearing down on you.
Oh, no.
Oh, lordy.
Oh, no.
Well, the very thing I'm running away
Crack of
from.
lightning.
That's what I don't
According to my
like.
calculations, I've made a grave error.
It could just be stinging insects or hot sun.
Yeah, right? It could be just...
It could
yeah.
be one of
Could
those
be.
things,
Yeah, that's true.
All right. So this is a classic, a couple things happen all at once kind of scenario. My favorite scenario in tabletop role-playing games.
A few things happen at the same time.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the ship is, as Calathiel has made the choice to do, is forging ahead, right? Like we said, the Verdigale is not a fast ship, but forging ahead, you are still moving at a pretty decent clip. You are churning through the Wildsea, cutting through it, dragging yourself forward along the waves, and there's the gentle rise and fall as you're heading kind of northeasterly. You're trying to follow the kind of rough coordinates that Claremont has set for you, and I think Claremont is out on the deck. I think he's doing some like light navigation as well. Probably has like an extendable, like spyglass telescope, and is sighting things on the horizon. Is keeping an eye on where Rhys is, and then is calling back to you, Calathiel, inside the pilot's cabin. And it's a warm day. The sun is out where you are at. There's that kind of like that green smell that rises as the vegetation is heated by the sun. And, I think occasionally there's like this slight clinking as you tear through, little pieces like detritus metal scrap that's kind of floating on the top of the waves here. But But you are at the least the start of this journey, roaring ahead, and the storm out to the west is behind you. But
Behind us.
but I think as you
That's where we
as
want
you're
it.
going, it's getting closer. It's moving at a pace that exceeds your own speed, or at least seems to be matching it at first. I don't think you can hear thunder quite yet, but occasionally in the distance you see the crack of lightning light up the sky as more and more of the western expanse is shaded by this growing, traveling head of clouds. And Rhys, your eyes ahead to the north and to the east, right? You are scooting on the outrider, and there is little that you see that is worth really noting. You are, I think, probably making, you're testing out this radio. You're getting to call out like, I think maybe you spot a spot where there's like blanched waves where the trees have died away a little bit, and so it looks like it's more solid than it is, and you're able to steer the ship aside slightly. Tell it to avoid certain things, but like, you're having a pretty good little journey going east.
But I just don't look behind me ever.
Yeah, if you're looking ahead, it's bright skies and it's a good time. I think you call out one of these like minor adjustments that the ship needs to make. Like maybe it's like there's a particularly like thick burled branch, right, that's kind of cresting up over the tree line. And it's a simple like call to let them know, hey, let's adjust slightly to the more northerly direction to skirt around this, just to avoid the damage to the saw. And I think it is when you go to respond, Calathiel, the clover and oat, as it were. There's the click of the radio, and then you hear a kind of like a sound that we would all recognize, but that is probably a little more unusual for you, which is the sound of like an electronic device dying. That kind of like, and the saw is still spinning, but instantly you can feel like a shudder as the speed of the saw spinning starts to slow down.
Okay.
And the radio is dead. There's no crackle on it.
There's a very sad song on the radio.
There's nothing on the radio. There is no sad song. There is silence. And the ship starts to judder and slow as the saw kind of skipping and slowing and skipping, and then just fully stops. And there's kind of a moment where Claremont on the deck throwing his hands up and grabbing a rope to hold on as he's kind of like thrown forward. You're probably bounced around a little in the cabin as the ship kind of comes to an abrupt stop as the bite dies, and it's just the momentum of the ship's mass carrying you forward a few meters further. The battery has died.
Hex, what's going on? We're losing power.
I'll go look. I don't know. I guess he's gonna go check. Is there any kind of like thing that he has seen that
Well, I'm imagining this is like escalatingly worse from up here in the pilot's cabin. So it's like, one, the bite stops, and then two, I'm like, Hex, what's going on? As like the battery stops.
Oh, right.
And I'm imagining gusts of wind are like whipping up like white caps here. Like effectively, how like when leaves will flip over and like they're the lighter
Before
side and from the
thunderstorm,
underside.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you can just see the white caps forming on these bows, which is like, let's get it moving quickly.
How are you
Crack
talking
of
to
lightning.
Hex right now?
We're on the spirit box, which is not
the
electronic,
spirit
right?
box,
It's just
right.
pipes. They're just like pipes running through the thing.
which I think makes it scarier because it's all over the boat. Like it's just pervasive throughout the
Hex,
ship.
where are you at inside the boat right now?
I think hearing the call through the the spirit box, he going down to the engine room to check the batteries and see what the issue might be, if it's a connection thing, whether he needs to hit the the rod.
So the interior of the ship is dark as you start to move through it, right?
I have
the
my beetle, my glowing.
You give a little. Oh yeah, so one of your
beetle,
resources
so
is a phosphorescent beetle.
using that as like a headlamp, kind of to.
As you hold it and you start to move through, right? The arc lights have died inside the ship. The beetle starts wiggling, right? It is I think regularly docile, but like Animals can, kind of feel when a storm is coming. This beetle is like kind of like fluttering impatiently in your hand in the dim light. And as you're making your way through, you start to hear it at the same time that Calathiel does, right? It's the pitter-patter of raindrops against the amber glass windows, against the roof cabin, against the deck, as, I think there is still some sunlight coming through, like, right, portholes, amber glass portholes, and, like, all at once you see that light starting to die as the dark clouds overhead start to take up, kind of catch up to the Verdigale. Within moments, you've gone from being ahead of the storm to being under it as it starts to pass over you, and the rain starts to grow heavier as you make your way to the engine room. And there is, I say, like, as you're outside, like, the door to the engine room, there are still portholes, right? There's, like, almost no light coming through them now, but the beetle's lighting your way. And then suddenly the entire interior is lit in a brief moment as a bolt of lightning strikes down near the ship.
So if we wanted to try and, like, use that here while there's lightning hitting all around us, like, what would we need mechanically to try that? Like, that would, I guess, would come from our characters trying to position that correctly?
Yeah, I think that could be it, right? It could just be, waiting for the rod to strike.
It encourages a strike, but doesn't guarantee. So.
Yeah. Like I said, this one, like this first strike that hits, I think, is not like right next to the boat. It's close enough to light it up. It is not, close enough to endanger it. And it doesn't hit the rod yet either. You're still, like I said, I think, at the kind of head of these traveling clouds. But the lightning strikes, and there is a rumble of thunder, and I think there's like a moment of relief here for you, Hex, because you don't recognize the sound of the thunder.
Okay. Right. I imagine with the storm that is, coming after him, that, it has its own voice that plays in his head when it rings out. Like, these storms have their own, like, voices that, this is not maybe that storm.
But yeah, so you are at the engine room door, and I think, the lightning strikes, it lights it up, the thunder rings. It's not thunder you recognize. And then, you're able to open the door, and it's very clear, right? Yeah, that the ceramic battery that powers the ship, like the power cell in it, is exhausted. And so I think there's kind of two options here for you as a crew that I want to give you, which is, if you have some way to power the ship right now, you can expend whatever resource that is to get it going again, and try and kind of get your way out of here, get ahead of the storm once more. Alternatively, like you said, this ship does have a lightning rod. It is powered by lightning strikes. In some ways, I think Claremont is on the deck. He's not worried. He's kind of laughing at this as this. This is the first storm the ship has been in, but it's built to take lightning strikes. Right. And so I think he hasn't gone down there yet, but maybe he's walked up to the pilot's cabin to kind of get the situation report from Calathiel. But yeah, so Hex, down in the engine room, we haven't talked exactly about what these ceramic batteries look like. But if we look at your ship's design, in engines, volt storing batteries rigged up to regulate and distribute power. Their crackling hums make nearby insects and superstitious crew uneasy. I imagine they are like big ceramic encased kind of cylinders. I in my head have kind of like in my head it's like a handle, right, that like you slide it in and like lock it in, or you can like turn the cylinder to kind of draw out the battery cell, and to replace them as you have extras. And so, based on the dice that you've rolled here, right, something has gone wrong with the ship. It has lost power. The engine needs to be refueled one way or another. If you have a way to refuel it right now, you can continue on your way, and I'm going to give you full progress on your journey track. If you want to wait it out, then, given time in a storm, the ship is going to get struck with lightning, but you are going to lose progress. You're not continuing ahead as far as possible. I'm only going to mark one progress track on the ship's journey progress track, and you will obviously also be in the storm. which has its own, I think already the boat is rocking gently as the wind is picking up. The clouds are still kind of they've just caught up with you, but there's a bigger roiling storm to the west still coming. And the more it catches up with you, the more intense this weather's going to be.
Okay, so Hex has the ability lightning's call. You can direct bursts of volt. I don't even know how that word is. Voltaic energy through the palms or fingers, dealing volt damage. Can I use that to try to charge the battery, or is that only a damage giver? Like, is that something I can use to be like, I'm going to use myself to try to get this battery going, even if it drains me, whatever, but I can try to provide the lightning.
You can 100% try to provide the lightning. That will be a dice roll, right? And when things go bad on a dice roll, when you roll poorly, there's a possibility of damage or of other consequences. But that could be a way to jumpstart this engine right now and get you traveling forward. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that maybe just because Hex doesn't want to, let the rest of the crew know how much storms are going to bother him, that it's fine. I will just get this going. I can make this battery charged again. It will get us the power we need to just keep ahead of this storm. Even if
are you calling up through the echo box to Calathiel and Montclair in the pilot's box?
Yeah, I think he just goes, I got it. I've got this. Keep the ship on course. We should have batteries back up and running soon. I've got it under control.
Nice.
Try not to let anyone worry that this is not his favorite situation to be in.
I like that. Let's zoom in on that then.
Maybe Calathiel and Montclair listening through the echo box from he seems worried.
No. They're it's gonna be back online real quick. Yeah.
I think Montclair looks to you, Calathiel, and is like, I've spoken extensively with Hexam before we sailed on this journey. He assured me he's quite comfortable with this kind of engine. It's really his specialty. I'm sure we'll be moving in nowhere, and I think he looks out through the amber glass of the pilot cabin's main window and is like, I do hope Rhys realizes we've had to stop. Of course, is he? The taps the dead radio.
Yeah, I think before even the first lightning strike, he's on the radio and he's like, "Hello, come in." And he's like, "Oh, the damn thing! This is I get some more bugs to fix out, or we bought a bad unit." And then he hears, the lightning crash, and he sees, how you ever been see a wall of rain coming at you?
Mm-hmm.
I think he sees that and he's like, "Oh, darn it!" And
Turning around.
pops open a sort of side storage area and pulls out a sort of India rubber blanket, throws it over, and then goggles down, and then turns around and heads back towards the ship.
Yeah.
Nice.
Maybe now where we are catching up with all the stories, I think Rhys is pulling into the bay and shaking the rain off of him, maybe dumping his water out of his boot.
Good. All right, let's see. And then I think our camera cuts back into the dark engine room, lit only by the glow of this phosphorescent beetle, which I think you've had to put down, right, to work with the engine. And I think it is buzzing, flying around the room
I think it's even how people will get June bugs and tie strings to them so that they can.
Oh, nice.
I think it's kind of like that. He has attached to his lab robe kind of thing, string around a button that allows it to fly off. So it's the light's kind of moving around him as the ship rocks in the storm, and so he doesn't have to have his hands on the beetle, so he can work on the project, but allows the beetle to go where it needs to, or where it wants to go.
All right. So let's roll the dice to jumpstart your engine.
Yeah.
I
guess it's hands on both sides of the battery, just kind of willing it to have power, as the current flows through him, hopefully into the battery.
So let's talk about this. Let's do a little roll here. As always, we start with an edge. What's your edge?
I guess. Hold on, I guess sharps.
Yes, sharps is an edge of logic, wit, and planning. I think that makes sense.
The logic is
that...
I should be able to do this, and I'm planning on making it work.
yeah. So what skill are you using here?
I guess rattle, probably.
Yeah.
Maintenance and adaptation to the situation.
Yeah. Rattle is a skill of mending, maintenance, and adaptation, like you said. You can use it to salvage or repair damaged gear, to understand schematics and blueprints, to patch up a ship to keep it running till next port. I think this is in that range. So that's 3d6 to start. And then the last thing that we ask is, are there any advantages that you are utilizing here? And this could be, I think, an aspect of your character. I think Lightning's Call. You can deal direct verse of voltaic energy through your palms or fingers is a good aspect, a good advantage here. So that will add 1d6. That will put you at 4d6 altogether, which is not bad.
Okay, I'll take it. Rolling 4d6. Let's go. So that's doubles. That does something, right? 2 2s, a 3, and a 5. A twist.
Yes. And so you got a 5, a 3, and 2 2s. So 5 is the highest result here, which means that you have rolled a conflict. Still a success, but with a drawback of some kind, such as taking damage or losing a resource. If you're affecting a track, this still usually lets you clear or mark a box. And so I think on a conflict, this is still a success. But I think I know what the twist is here.
Okay.
Which I think we can talk about that in one moment. But first, a success here. You've got your hands on the engine, and like you described, I think we see, Hex starts to channel his own internal electricity into the engine, right? And we cut to the cabin, right? And like the radio starts flickering on and off, and I think it starts like searching through signals. Also, you start getting little bits and refrains of like, it's like an amplified signal right now. You're catching music from some other station broadcasting somewhere. You're catching little bits and pieces. The lights, in the the lights in the bay down where Rhys is at start flickering on and off, right? As Calthiel's like plugging power into this, as Hexam's plugging power into this, and I think you're gonna take 1 damage, Hex. As there's a kind of a feedback effect here, right? Like as you're draining yourself a little bit to power up a whole ship. And a ship needs a lot of energy compared to even just one moth.
And that fills one of the pips in the lightning call.
It can go in any aspect you want. That one makes a lot of sense to me, though.
Yeah. Okay.
Since that's the one you're using right here. And so I think the twist here to me, and you guys can tell me if you're all down with this. I think, Hex, as you are charging this thing up, right, as you are pouring your own power into it, the lightning rod does the reverse of what it's supposed to do, which is like as you're channeling electricity into the ship, from the rod up into the clouds, we see a jagged bolt of lightning fire up into the clouds. And then that electric bolt disperses, and we see it racing back out along the length of the clouds.
Letting the storm know where I am.
Yeah, I think you've just sent a kind of a signal into the stratosphere with your own particular signature, right? Your own electric stink.
Okay. That's a good twist, yeah.
And
all right,
I'm gonna make a track. I think probably.
No better time to crack a Dr. Pepper, 0 sugar with cream soda.
It's a lot going on there.
Dr. Pepper with cream soda?
There's 27 flavors, and now they just added a couple more. That's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, Dr. Pepper, Mr. Pibb.
Oh my god, it tastes almost exactly like Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper, Mr. Pibb.
I forgot all about that. Very funny.
It's been on my mind every day since we were there.
It's been on my mind almost every day, yeah.
I do think about naming sodas when I'm tired and I don't want to keep going. I'm like, Sprite, Mountain Dew, Mr. Pibb.
Cactus Cooler.
But I'm going to mark a track. I'm going to make a track. I'm going to create a track here. This track is called The Coming Storm. And this track is going to be hidden, which means I'm not going to tell you how many segments are on it. Much like a journey progress track, you're not going to know how long it actually is until it is full. And I am going to start off by marking one segment of it. But then, yeah, that is still, you've taken the damage, right? As like, I think probably Hex, there's this moment of like realizing what's happening as you're feeding energy into it, and it pulls more out of you than you're intending to give. Almost like the storm itself is like pulling or drawing some of this energy out of you as it, it fires up the lightning rod and into the sky and spreads. And this is the damage you're taking, this kind of like over exertion. But with like a kick and a roar, the saw prow starts going again. It starts spinning, right? At like it's still at like forge ahead speed, right? Because no one has reduced the Chad burn, and so with a judder and a shake, I think everyone's kind of thrown a little bit. I think the ship starts to power up and start moving again. And like I said before, you've recharged the batteries. You're going to be able to get out ahead from under the storm, at least a little bit, right? It's a lot closer now than it was, but you'll be able to get out of its immediate wake, and you'll be able to continue forging ahead. I'm not going to reduce your progress track on this one. And from there, we can kind of come back around, right? That is the encounter that we've had here. I think the ship starts moving again. I don't know if there's like a moment here between the characters as like, everyone's back on the ship again. Rhys has returned. The engine has started back up. Claremont's like lets out like a heavy sigh of relief. He didn't realize he was holding. And maybe we get like one cut to Ixtalbor, who is like in the galley, I think like peeling some kind of root vegetable, and has been this whole time, right? Kind of like doing it in the dark.
The light comes back on and he's like,
yeah. Oh. He's an Ectus. He doesn't have eyes. He's not relying on vision in the same way that you guys are. You're like,
That's pretty funny.
I think, Rhys is walking up slightly damp and asking, what was that? It was clear skies completely ahead. I didn't even feel a drip nor a drop until I heard the thunder clap.
A question best answered by our Tempest, our ship's weathermaster. I do fear and I think Claremont looks around. We've added a bit of strain to the old engine with all of these new doodads and gizmos.
Go ahead, explain yourself, Hex.
We're fine. Ixtalbor, I would love one of those real cups of coffee right now. The ship, it will work. I'm reconfiguring things, with all the additions we added. It definitely puts more strain on the battery, but something it can handle. It will just take time learning how to balance the power output we're putting on the ship, and maybe we'll next time we'll be able to use these lightning rods in the way that they are meant to be used. Onward, as his hand is kind of shaking and getting the coffee to keep him energized, because otherwise, he feels wildly just drained. So.
All right, well, that explanation is satisfactory to me. How about the rest of you?
It seemed like the storm really zeroed in on us.
It's almost as if it had a mind of its own.
I imagine a lot of sailors have felt that on the Wildsea, that the storm is out there coming after them. But I can assure you, these storms come and go, blow through with the wind, and it's not after us.
I think Claremont slaps
everybody
Hex
looks back at it again.
I think Claremont slaps Hex on the back, and says, "Of course not. A living storm is a different beast entirely. If one of those was bearing down on us, I'm sure we'd know it right away."
Yeah. Yes.
Probably right.
All right, well, back to work then.
And so, the journey continues, I think kind of forging ahead, and like you are, like I said, kind of as you're going, you're encountering more and more detritus on the waves. There are, I think reefs of salvage of like broken up architecture that have emerged from beneath the surface here. glittering steel and glass shards on the wave tops as you are sailing along. And time is a little fluid here. This is probably not all the same day, right? Perhaps a day or two has passed on our journey heading east. But I think it is time again to continue on the journey. And so we are going to go through the kind of same set of roles and mechanics that we just did before. And we can change it up. We can keep it the same. This is kind of, your decision as a crew, how you guys like to do this. But the same rules apply, right? Someone has to be at the helm, someone has to be on watch, and then there is the third person of our crew can be doing one of these optional stations, or they can just be, busying themselves somewhere else on the ship. It doesn't always have to be one of those three. If you just want to be, say you're somewhere else at the ready, or if you have like a kind of undefined activity that you want to try and perform here, like that's all, that's valid. That's an option we can.
Of two minds with this. I don't know if Hex is like, I need to just focus kind of like on, I would love to take the helm and just drive, or if it is like you got Claremont being like, well, wonderful, Hex, our weatherman, we've gotten through that storm, keep an eye out again. And just be like, all right, yep, back to watching it from the, what is the back of a boat called? It's not the prow, it's the
bow, or the aft.
The aft.
Yeah.
And just kind of standing there as he, like Rhys said, watching that wall of rain be always kind of just a step behind us. So I could go either way with that. If anyone has any other specific desires for what they're doing.
I'd love to locate the Bright Bloom and deliver that package, if that's in the cards.
Me, I guess I'm trying to score something coming up.
Okay. You know what? Then I think maybe Hex does take the helm. That it's like, I'm going to use this. I'm feeling good, reassuring everyone that we can steam ahead. You keep an eye out looking for stuff that's being dragged up. If Rhys wants to do any kind of work that needs to be done to get us closer to the Bright Bloom.
Cool. So it sounds like at the helm, it's going to be Hex.
I'm taking the helm, yeah.
Rhys is still on watch, keeping an eye peeled, especially for any signs of the Bright Bloom and the salvage trawler that you're supposed to deliver an engine part to. So what does that leave? Calithiel, are you doing one of these other tasks, or are you trying to are you trying to dredge as you guys sail? Is that
I guess part of it is if I'm, kind of keeping a lookout here, I guess this is kind of why I was asking with some of the assets I have. I have a chart, which I'm wondering comes up here because I think I also have a whisper of a risen wreck, and I think Cal is basically looking for, when the water's calm and you can see stuff on the bottom, is signs of rootquake, where you'd be able to spot a glimmer of a hull or something reflecting the sunlight that in such a way that would suggest it might be metal, so that we can stop and delve if we need to.
Yeah.
It's really it's an activity. I don't know.
So I think there's if you wanted to use a whisper somehow to summon a thing, you could. Otherwise, what we roll on the dice here on this, whoever's taking watch will kind of dictate to an extent what our next encounter is, which could be a wreck or something. Otherwise, there is I think, as I said before, because of these rootquakes, there's salvage, right? There's stuff kind of glittering on the surface. I think as you are sailing, trying to sift through some of that for resources for salvage as you go, kind of dredging, or I'm thinking in my head a little bit here about magnet fishing also.
Right. Yeah.
That could be I would let you roll to try and acquire some resources as you are journeying, if you want to do that while someone else is on watch.
I like that idea of magnet fishing. Maybe that's something we could kind of fit, like Tim was saying, you drag behind you, and that's sort of just an idle thing as you're going, you're tossing stuff over, seeing what comes back. Maybe the fancier boats might have it on some kind of automated, pulley line thing. But yeah, I guess I can roll delve on that.
Yeah, so let's go through it. We'll do these in order, and then we'll make you do a little roll here, kind of a gathering resources, an acquisition roll. So let's start with the helm, right? I think Montclair, as you guys kind of shift, maybe it's the start of the next day. The storm is still on your heels. I think you're still caught. I think it hasn't stopped raining since yesterday, right? You've been in a kind of a constant like drizzle. The storm has kind of not overtaken you. You're in this like constant light mist. Everyone's like kind of perpetually damp. But it's also cooled the Wildsea off. It's a little cooler than you normally are. And I think it's like Hexam, you know the most about storms. It's probably you're the best one to cut our path forward, to try and get out from under this as we keep searching. I'm going to be in the library today. I want to pay attention to the seismograph, to our rootquake detection system, trying to make sure we're pointed in the right direction for our findings. And so at the helm, Hex, I'm going to give this in a more abbreviated form since we just talked about it. But you can cut a path, which is you travel at decent speed, but you are keeping the ship under control. You have more ability to respond to things. And you'll mark a single box in your progress track. Or you can forge ahead, which is what you were doing last time. You're going rough but swift, you're at full power, you're going to mark more on your progress track, but if you roll badly on the watch roll, you don't really have a great way of avoiding whatever you encounter.
Yeah. I think this is a cut a path, especially if we want, or Cal wants to do any kind of, dredging stuff up or delving.
I think that makes sense. Yeah, it'd probably be harder to like try and actually catch salvage if you're going at full steam.
Yeah, and I think it's as a way of like calming himself down after the exertion. We're just going to keep the boat going steady. We don't need to speed through, always having an eye on the storm. And if we need to, we can deal with it when, the lightning strikes again.
Okay. And then, so let's continue down. Rhys, you're on watch. My guess is you're on the Outrider once again. So this is going to be the same thing we did last time. You and I are both going to roll 1d6, and we'll see what we get. What I roll will determine how dangerous the thing is. What you roll will determine the nature of the thing. So whenever you're ready, let's go ahead and roll 1d6.
All right, 3, 2, 1. 1.
Oh, and I've rolled. Well, I won't tell you what I've rolled because it's hidden. I almost just said it out loud, which would defeat the whole point of doing it as
that would have been
roll.
Really cool.
Really helpful for you guys. And then, Calathea, why don't you give me a little picture of where you're at? Let's start with you, because you're going to roll like an acquisition. You're fishing for salvage as we're trawling along, right?
Yeah, I imagine this is like kind of actually just like off the side of the ship. Probably behind the bight where a lot of this stuff would get kicked up. And I think Cal's actually just like kind of tying rope to I don't know, like a railing there or something, and is actually just kind of like tossing these over. And there's probably like 3, tied onto like a handle that you can pull up, I think with like a winch or something like that. And peg keeps it from sliding back down. But this is like probably a fairly common technique for fishing a rootquake. It is kind of like chunk letting it go and reeling it back in a couple times. And it's probably mostly junk. Like, there's probably a lot of crap that gets just caught in it. It doesn't matter what point in the timeline you're in. I'm sure you're pulling up like a rusted bike covered in gunk, just like every river in America. And there's like, stuff like that that's coming up.
Old rubber boot, rusty tin can.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, rusty can, but it's like full of like a small mouse family or something, tossing it back. And like,
so go ahead and give me a roll here. This is like an acquisition roll, like we might do during a montage.
So that would use. Are there cuts on this? Or like, not for
acquisition. I don't think there's cuts on this. I think this is like you're probably not going to get anything
crazy
because you're just like skimming the surface and not like digging through. Right. This is like a.
Well, I've got 1 in tides and 2 in delve. I don't really use anything else here. So that's rolling 3.
It's rolling 3d6. Yeah.
A 5, a 4, and a 3.
A 5, a 4, and a 3. A 5, a 4, and a 3.
A 5, a 4, and a 3.
So a 5, a 4, and a 3. The 5 here, is a conflict, as is a 4. It's 5's your highest, and so you gain a resource with a negative tag. It can still be useful, but it won't exactly impress anyone. And so I think this is like you're fishing, on the boat, and Cal is just pulling up stuff, and it's like most of it I think is too fragmented, right, to even be worth keeping, right? It's just like worn down. Maybe this is like the stuff that you're shoving in your pockets that will be scratched later, right? And so I think maybe on one of these, you bring up what I'm gonna call this is salvage. This is like instead of like one singular item, I think this is like a kind of a batch, right? I think it like you bring up you hit something heavy and you hear kind of like a breaking below as you bring the magnet up, and I think that there's like kind of like a half busted open piece of scrap hanging off the side of the magnet, but attached to the bulk of it, kind of in a big cluster, is a kind of mess of rusted gears and cogs. And so you can go ahead and mark that as a piece of salvage, right? I think you've broken a machine with the magnet and you've pulled out its like kind of clockwork innards, and so it is, like I said, it's like if you've broken up a
It's the
steampunk
soul of a robot.
yeah, a steampunk pinata, right?
Oh, cool.
Rusted gears and cogs as your salvage that you've gained on this little like fishing expedition, and it's pretty steady, smooth sailing. It does feel like fishing though, because you're in this kind of like constant light drizzling rain, right? And you're kind of getting pelted with it as you're standing on the deck. Claremont is below deck, as are Ixtalbor. Hexam, you're on the wheel. You've been keeping an eye on the rootquake detection system, and you've been good. You have not had like a real one in a while, right? You're
Right.
It's pretty smooth sailing. You're in good control of the ship as you cut through the green tides up and over, and you're occasionally looking north, finding the pillar of smoke that serves as like this kind of eternal navigation aid. And Rhys, you are just a little bit ahead of the rest of the group, kind of marking your way, but it's been a kind of relaxed, kind of early morning, afternoon, when I think you hear it from a distance, Cal, but you hear it a lot more clearly. It's the sound of barks and yipping. This kind of animalistic, right? Like a bark, like a growl and a yip. And you hear like one bark, and then you hear a returning like yip and a bark, and then a moment later a howl. And this howl's loud enough all three of you hear it.
Oh boy.
You've heard the sound before. You heard it most recently, Hexam.
Spring
That's a pinwolf.
A pinwolf indeed. The kind of most common and most omnipresent, but still always dangerous. Like one of the most common predators of the Wildsea. These vicious pack hunters with their stiletto limbs, pinwolves, the far distant cousin to wolves of the pre-verdant world. And so you can hear their barking and yipping, and it's kind of like over the next kind of crested rise of the Wildsea. And you hear that barking, you have time, you're not about to like stumble right into this whether it's a den, whatever it is, you've got a little bit of heads up. You hear the yipping and the barking and the howling before you see a single pinwolf, which is a little unusual, Rhys. They are cunning predators. Usually they are quiet until they are too close for comfort, but you're hearing them yip and bark already. And then you hear a different sound. It is the sound of an engine turning over and failing. The loud, like, and then like a loud mechanical bang and stop. And you hear human voices. You hear a cry, a yell, but the words are a little too distant to make out. And then, Rhys, I think you're the one who gets to this crest in the waves first, to kind of this rise and the swell. And as you rise to this top, you can see ahead in the near distance the source of all this noise. There is a big, yellow-painted, boxy dredge ship, this big salvage ship. You know, it's like a big square. It looks like, in my mind, kind of like a dredging barge that goes over rivers. Is, you know, big, flat, with a ton of room on top just for cargo to be loaded on. And you can see it is already covered in like scrap and cargo on the top, but it's canted at a downward angle, almost as if it's like half sinking into the thrash. And you can see from your spot here on this ridge, you know, from the far distance, there are two humanoid figures on the ship kind of moving around. It's the source of these voices. There's another yell and a shout. One of them is clearly Ectus, a tall, cactoid humanoid moving about on the ship. The other, from this distance, hard to see, maybe an Ardent. But they are shouting. You know, there is a sudden retort of gunfire, an explosion, a loud boom, and like the puff of smoke from some kind of flintlock weapon as one of them fires, because the ship is surrounded on all sides.
Oh, no.
There's 2, 3, 4, 5 that you can spot. Pinwolves stalking across the treetops, growling, snarling, howling, and then ducking beneath the waves and popping up again. And they're edging closer and then backing off, but it's clear they're closing in on a ship who, in clumsy red writing on the side, you can see the name, the Bright Bloom.
What?
Bit of good news, bad news, I suppose.
Classic situation.
And then the Ardent, who is at the helm, does something, right? You hear that engine start up again. You see their bite is not a saw prow, but instead it is like two kind of like rotating mulchers, right? That kind of like these two cylinders covered in saw prow blades that kind of like mulch through the Wildsea. You see those spin and then freeze up, and there's like a loud grinding sound as they fail to propel the machine anywhere except like another few feet deeper into the thrash.
Well, I suppose I get on the radio and say, well, I've located the Bright Bloom, but they seem to be in a bit of trouble. Please, head to head to me first. Well, did you hear the howl earlier, Cal?
We're hearing it, yeah.
Yeah. Pinwolves, I'm afraid. 5 that I can see. They've besieged the Bright Bloom on all 4 corners of its perimeter. And if we don't act soon, I'm afraid that these fine sailors will be lost to the waves, in the hungry maws of these beasts.
And as if to emphasize Rhys's point, you all hear it on the boat loud and clear now. The largest of these pinwolves in this little like valley on the Wildsea surrounding the Bright Bloom, arches its back, raises its maw, and lets out a blood-curdling howl that spreads across the waves.